Welcome back to another segment of Smart Start Radio. We are coming at you with a very exciting episode today. We are talking to a great lineup of some super talented, passionate people in our beloved culinary world. So this podcast episode is actually the brainchild of Eming, as she was writing a fantastic, and she's laughing at me, as she was writing a fantastic feature story on some of these restaurants. And she was like, well, this needs to be a podcast episode too, because these people are so awesome. So here we are.
Here, I'll give you a little backstory. This is gonna be a long episode, so I apologize if you get really hungry by segment 1 and then want to go eat lunch. Feel free, save it, come back to it. But I was in Mexico last year, and I went to a Michelin-starred restaurant, and it was an experience that I will never forget. It felt like it was just like a crafted statue that was given to me. That's what it felt like. And so I was really interested in the idea of how planners can utilize those kind of experiences to really create interesting, fun, exciting moments for folks who attend their events. And so we reached out to a bunch of different restaurants in the Bay Area, specifically in Oakland and San Francisco, California, to kind of gauge what is available, which I'm sure is available in other parts of the country as well, but we wanted to focus strictly on where we are at, which is the Bay Area. And so, we got hungry listening to these people. And we hope you do too, because not only do they create really interesting moments in time, but their food sounds and looks really good.
Yeah, as Eming and I were recording this episode, we were kind of like, well, now we're building our to-do list of restaurants that we need to go to.
Spots dine to go to in the future.
Yes. Yeah. So
yes.
To-do list isn't the right term. It's a wish list. So
it is a wish list.
Keep an eye out for us in the fine dining scene of the Bay Area. But
we're coming.
It's also
lock up your wine cellars, people. I'm not even joking.
Yeah, no, I know
your wine cellars.
We have fun. I will add in, this is a really interesting time when we look at the way that the events world is evolving, because people really do want more experiential kinds of event settings, and
definitely
incorporating fine dining is one of the ways we can do that. For a long time, I think that events have kind of gotten a bad reputation when it comes to the food that's served. It's like you go into a big banquet hall and it's like chicken or steak, or vegetarian.
Yeah.
And it's usually it's not necessarily the kind of experience that people remember. They're just getting fed throughout their meeting. But what if we could add it, what if we could add dining in as an experiential element of an event? So by talking to these amazing restaurateurs, we are beginning to learn how to do that. And I think we're going to continue to see events evolve in this realm and many other realms, of course. So, one more piece of background information, which we will address later in this episode. But part of the reason we're focusing on the Bay Area is because Oakland was just recently awarded the Reader's Choice Award for Best Foodie City. So if you haven't been to Oakland, just know that when you do go, there's some great food waiting for you. And we've got some restaurant recommendations coming up later down the line in this episode.
Yep. But our first guest that we spoke to, her name is Colleen Booth. She is the COO of Lazy Bear Restaurants. Look, I will let her explain, but it sounds really good. So we hope you enjoy this first segment.
Welcome back to Smart Start Radio, everyone. Today we are so excited to have Colleen Booth here. She is the managing partner and COO of Lazy Bear, which is a 2 Michelin-star, stumbled over my words, 2 Michelin-star restaurant in the heart of San Francisco in the Mission District, which is one of my favorite districts of San Francisco. If you don't know, we're based in Sausalito, so we are Bay Area people through and through. But I've never had the pleasure of dining at Lazy Bear, which is why I am so excited to have Colleen here today to talk about this amazing restaurant with a really cool backstory, by the way. We'll get into that later. But Colleen, thank you so much for being here.
Of course, my pleasure.
Awesome. So kind of just to kick this off, we are really interested in the aspect of F&B and how that works in the space of events and meetings. And you guys host events, and you host a lot of other things too, which kind of works together to form this cool situation that you have going on. What is Lazy Bear? Like, where did it come from?
Yeah. What's your origin story?
Well, we love to throw a party.
Who doesn't? Who doesn't?
So my business partner, David Barzilay, so he's the founder and executive chef of Lazy Bear. So this is really his baby. It goes back to, I think 2007, 2008. He actually is a lawyer by trade, self-taught chef. And he was laid off, and Lazy Bear is actually an anagram for his last name. And so basically his wife was like, stop being such a lazy bear, go out and do something that you want to do. And he was really into cooking, and he'd been getting really into cooking throughout his law school time, just like immersing himself completely in cookbooks. So ultimately, Lazy Bear started as a pop-up in his small Mission apartment with he and his wife. And his wife, Jeanette, is just a spectacular woman, and she was working the pop-ups with him. And they graduated to a slightly larger space. Well, I would say more than slightly larger, in a old pop-up space that used to be called like Chez Poulet on Cesar Chavez. And so he got a ton of traction there. He was one of the very first people to do sort of lottery for reservations or like pre-purchase tickets, and had these massive waiting lists for the pop-ups. And then he had a number of regulars who were like, let's make this happen. Who also happened to have money behind them. And so invested, finally found the space, and that's when we moved into 3416 19th Street. And that was in 2015 because 2014, because we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary in the space.
Congratulations.
In September. Yeah, thank you. So we, the big mission statement behind Lazy Bear, to boil it down, is that we don't take ourselves very seriously, but we take what we do very seriously. And I think that often isn't always the approach to fine dining. And I think I am a big girl, and when I go into a restaurant, I can put the napkin on my lap myself. And I think there's just little aspects of very high-end dining that just aren't what we love. We want to be familiar. We want to be comfortable. We really want to welcome you into our home and throw a party. And that's really the running ethos of Lazy Bear. And so it started out and almost always was a communal dining experience first and foremost. So for about the first 8+ years, well, beyond that, because he did this for the pop-up years, it was communal dining. So strangers sitting next to strangers, forcing each other into conversation, building those connections. So as a hospitality professional, this is a hard job, but we love building connections with other people. And so it was really amazing to share that with our guests and encouraging them to do the same as well. And that's what we did 2 times a night, 5 nights a week, for many, many years. And then this thing called the pandemic happened, and you weren't allowed to sit next to strangers anymore. And we pivoted, and now we are much more, for lack of a better word, standard sort of reservation model. It's not 2 set seatings. People have their individual tables. But all of our private events are generally still communal, because we really do think, it allows for a much more unique experience on a more private event level. And then I think for our standard services, we love it because we actually can personalize the experience much more to each individual guest. And so we've just had so much fun building out. We just went through a renovation, and so we've just every single day we're like, what can we do more for a guest? How can we make this more special? So that's sort of us in a general service, but events we do still do communal unless it's a reception.
It's really cool. I think the way that you describe communal dining will really resonate with our listeners who are event planners. They're really all about that kind of connecting with a stranger and fostering something genuine. So I love
Right.
that. I've never had that kind of experience at a restaurant, but do you think that you might ever go back to a communal dining kind of setting?
I think so. I mean, probably not in this space because we just renovated it to make it better for what we're currently doing. But I
Right.
think, um, we love what it can do for a group of people. So I think it's something that, I always say that I have like 19,000 ideas for our next restaurants and event services. So I think it will come back in an iteration for sure. And in the meantime, as I mentioned, all of our sort of public facing private events, we do these big holiday parties or New Year's, that's done communal. And then for the events that book with us for private events, we do communal as well. So it's not off the table for it to still be available for people.
Cool.
Very cool.
So if I'm a planner and I'm like looking around, like I want to host a really cool event with dinner and all the fixings of an experience, and I come to you guys, what's kind of the process for that? Like, what am I going to be? What would you need from me, and what do I need from you in terms of like, how to make this work?
Yeah, I think the first and important thing is the date, right? And I think one thing that specifically for us, and I know many Michelin-starred restaurants that do have a specific private dining space, we don't. So at Lazy Bear, well, we have a bear cave, which is our wine cellar, but we can only host much smaller, more intimate events. The maximum capacity is really 16 in here.
Okay.
So for the main dining area, we release our reservations almost 2 full months in advance. So just having an awareness of that cutoff time as to when events need to be booked, I think is really the most important. And then I always say to event planners who are coming to us, tell me what you want. Don't ask me what I can do for you. I want to know what you want first, because we don't want this to be a less than spectacular event. So if you're not forthright with exactly what you're looking for in terms of setting, in terms of audiovisual needs, even seating needs, give it all to us up front, and then we will present you with what is doable. I think that that's one of the biggest, I think, missed marks that sometimes I hear is, it's only later on after the contract is signed and as we're getting closer to the date with more logistics that someone says, for example, like, oh, well, we need round tables for this event. Oh, we can't do round tables. So I think, really having an idea of what you want and sort of what you want the vision of an event to be is also important. So the date, that I think obviously the budget always makes a lot of help to have that out of the way. And then I think just obviously trust that we know what we're doing. We're professionals and we're going to show you a good time.
Yeah. It's interesting that you bring up audiovisual, because, you wouldn't necessarily think that you could maybe implement some design ideas or like branding. Is that something that you would be able to do, though, if somebody requested it?
We do, absolutely. I will say again, we are very particular. So I think, if it's a little bit of both. If people come to us and, for example, something like place cards, like the actual name cards on the table, we take our design guidelines very seriously. We have a full deck. We have an in-house marketing team. And we don't want just our logo getting thrown on something that's printed and maybe not sitting evenly, because every event is ultimately a marketing opportunity for us as well. Not every guest in this event is necessarily the one who opted to come to Lazy Bear. So we really want to be able to show to the extent of how much we care. So when it comes to branding and design and personalization of this space, we absolutely can contribute to so much, and we will help align with floral arrangements and different setups and rentals and anything you need. But I think, again, that's something that we should know kind of out of the gate. And then we do go over, we have a full event deck that says, please inquire if these are things you're looking into. But AV is a big deal. Even just a microphone is a big deal. Not every space can have a plug-in.
Right.
An auxiliary plug-in, sometimes you also have to source speakers. And lighting is a big deal when you're talking about a projection and the throw of the screen and so on and so forth. So yeah, I think those are all important details.
Right. As a restaurant with 2 Michelin stars, how does an experience at your restaurant, what makes that, how does that make your restaurant, like, the experience, different overall? Like, as someone who's like, who hasn't gone, who's curious, who goes to, as a, like, I'm not the host, but I'm there, because I've been asked to come. What is it going to be like for me as someone who hasn't experienced this before? Like, what's the overall, like, the arc of the story, if you will?
Yeah. Well, it'll be free for you, which is why I think you should absolutely go if you're not the host.
I hope so.
If you've never been before.
Right. I mean, it's kind of all about hospitality, gifting the attendee, right?
Yeah, I think for us is we get so excited about welcoming people that we've never seen before. And and it's being able to give them an experience that we acknowledge is out of some people's price point sometimes, or is only a special occasion or a once in a blue moon. So it's so exciting for us. So we welcome every guest as if they are the paying guests, as if they're someone that we are going to see over and over again. Because as I mentioned, for us, our sense of hospitality truly is you are coming into our home. And the way the experience runs, generally speaking, is we do bring you up to our mezzanine level, which is ultimately our living room, and it's lounge seating. And we welcome you with a glass of punch, and you meet a couple different members of the team. And it's always very important for us to have the guest list ahead of time, so our team can introduce our guests to our team members on a first name basis. Again, that just level of hospitality that comes from a genuine warm place of you are in our space. And then we do the first few courses past. So again, just a little bit convivial, kind of letting people shed some pretense. I think especially on a more company side, most of these events have just come out of a litany of meetings or networking. And so for us, it's like, you get to breathe in our space. You are here now. And even if this is a networking event or a continued work event, let us take care of it. Let us handle everything. We do collect all the information on dietary restrictions and so on and so forth ahead of time. And generally, we also provide our staff, when possible, with sort of a yearbook style of photos of the guests. So as best we can also greet people by name.
Wow.
Cool.
And be prepared for, whether it's the CEO of the company or if it's the mother of the bride, but just have that extra information and that extra level of familiarity to our guests. And then they're escorted downstairs, seated a series of communal tables, and then they're welcomed by the chefs, generally by Chef David himself. And then you are at the utmost attention of our entire staff. Everyone is hands-on. Between courses, the chefs themselves come out and introduce each course. And it's really lovely because it'll be the actual CDPs, the actual cooks who are making that dish come out and present their dish. So it's so earnest and so darling that, they get to express what they love about this dish and all the amazing cooking techniques behind it.
It's really cool.
Yeah, your website said that you invite folks to come back to the back of the kitchen or the kitchen area for certain
events? We have an open kitchen. And so there's a very thin line that's basically just the separation of the dining room floor into the kitchen floor. And we just recommend you don't cross that line. We do have live fire and things, sharp knives. But guests can walk right up there. And the culinary team loves it. They want to say hello to guests and hear what their favorite flavors were or unexpected bite that they had that evening. So it does have a little extra level of theatrics, if you will, to it.
Yeah, because usually you're not really allowed to venture beyond the the dining area. Like you're not thinking about venture. You're like, this is where I sit. This is where I stay the entire time. And you don't really go that way. So that's really cool that you guys allow that to as the experience. Sorry, Sarah, go ahead.
No, that's okay. Yeah, I mean, something is happening in the kitchen, you don't see it, and then there's a beautiful plate in front of you. But to be able to see it happen in action, you really can see how extraordinary it is to create a dish like the dishes that you serve. I think it makes it a lot more special. That's really cool. One thing that really struck me when I was looking at your website is the versatility of event opportunities you offer. Like you have the in-house private event with the open kitchen. Guests are encouraged to go up and talk to the chefs, like you said, but then you also can go off-site and do things like that. You have a Zoom cooking class, you have a cocktail making class, a wine tasting kind of experience. Yeah. Could you talk a little bit about like the versatility of events and maybe how like the range of opportunities available is beneficial to meeting planners?
For sure. I think a lot of it goes back to don't be afraid to ask. I always say for us as in-house event context, we are your advocate. Chefs aren't always nice or even available to have a conversation. So my job is to advocate for the best experience that the guest is going to have. And so that is just a small list of things that we've done. Obviously, a lot of the virtual items came out in sort of response to the pandemic. But yes, I mean, our beverage director, Jacob Brown, is so charismatic and so knowledgeable. And so, if you are having a little bit of a summit and want to just do a breakout for 12 or 14 of your guests and be able to work with a certified sommelier and go through deductive tasting. And it doesn't even have to be super scholastic in any way. It just can be a fun, enjoyable moment to kind of just set apart an hour of whatever meeting you have planned. It's a really great opportunity. And we'll actually portion everything out, send a grid and mail it all out individually to each attendee on the virtual side. For the offsites, that's where we just get excited. We love going into new spaces, whether it's your home, whether it's your backyard. A little over a year ago, we actually went to Kirby Cove, which is a small kind of campground and beach area that is in Marin overlooking the Golden Gate Bridge, looking into San Francisco. And I think that was 14 guests there. And we had a blast. And they sort of, we had a guest who just said, hey, any chance you would be interested in this? And we, David and I'm a little bit more pragmatic, and he was like, absolutely, yes. And in my head, I was like, power, running water. But then we went and did the site visit, and it was like, no, we're going to do champagne and caviar on the beach. And then we're going to escort them upstairs or up to this beautiful table set under the trees overlooking the bay, and did a full family style course and wine pairing there. And it just was so much fun. And the guests were like, this is absolutely incredible. And we had lights we strung lights for like 3 hours that day.
Wow.
Lessons learned. I know better how to approach some light stringing. But I think that's a gamut. I think we always want to do things that we've maybe not had the opportunity to do before, and really show guests an amazing time and show them what, again, just this, I don't want to use the word simplicity because I don't think anything we do is simple, but the joy that we get out of it is really simple. And the same thing that I think we all love about just having a good meal and a good glass of wine or a cup of coffee with someone you enjoy.
And that's really cool. I mean, like on the attendee side too, it's a completely unique experience to have champagne and caviar on the beach at Kirby Cove and go through that whole event experience. Like that's nothing like they have ever experienced or probably will ever again. So when
we
you're
met them at
planner,
their bus. We met them at their bus with like snacks and a little
that's so
Tassan,
cool.
and then walked them through the woods down into the beach.
That sounds magical.
Yeah, that's really like the kind of experience that you cannot replicate anywhere else.
Yeah. So I think those are, and it's always great to just go into someone else's home too and have a dinner with 15. And again, it is communal. And I think it just harkens back to sort of our founding philosophy of ultimately our jobs are just to throw a really amazing dinner party. And so when someone opens up your home to us, obviously there's an inferred level of trust there that gives us a little extra oomph to go above and beyond. And when that happens, we always like to leave the hosts little gifts for the next day. So we'll leave them like little caviar so they can have caviar on their eggs in the morning, or little coffee or something, just because we understand that as a host, it's a lot of pressure to welcome people in your home. So I think those little thoughtful touches get us really excited.
So for the max amount of people you can have in an offsite, is it still about the same, or does it ebb and flow depending on the situation?
It ebbs and flows. It ebbs and flows on obviously the space. We have gotten some larger inquiries as of late that are always very exciting for us. But we are not caterers. So, if you want us to do 75 people in a place that doesn't have a kitchen, we can do that, but it's going to cost a lot of money because we need a kitchen. And a restaurant kitchen is not designed the same way that a catering kitchen is. I think that just ensuring we are doing it to our own standards as well, we ask for a lot sometimes.
Right. As some planners may not understand the detail and effort you have to put in on your end. So what's maybe some things that people don't always think about that you feel that they should consider when working with you? Obviously you mentioned what you want and need, but is there a thing that you've noticed that people don't think about for events when they work with you and try to whether it's on-site or off-site?
I don't know if there's one thing. I think it can vary sometimes. I think for us, I also do events for our sister restaurant, True Laurel, which is a cocktail bar. And it's a little bit more casual. So it's sometimes you have a differentiating sort of level that you require. Right. I think for us, we do want to know the guests. We want to know the guests that are coming in, and we want to know the details of them so that we can personalize things. Even if someone's not the host, if you know that one of your guests is their birthday, let us know so that we can sort of elevate that evening for them. I think similarly with dietary restrictions, we do this every day. We have a certain cadence of how we ask clarifying questions. And I think that not having direct access to some of those guests who have a little bit more convoluted restrictions, I think it's not an issue, but I think that oftentimes we would rather just have that conversation directly with the guest than putting the planner in the middle. And it can often create a little bit more back and forth. But yeah, I think there's nothing that's ever, they didn't think about this. I think just clear communication of, this is what we're trying to do, and say, okay, well, we love this. This is what we could do. And try and see if it all aligns.
I'm really impressed by the level of personalization that you guys are able to do.
Definitely.
From greeting guests by name to knowing, this particular guest does not drink alcohol, so we'll make sure that we'll pay attention to make sure that they do not have a lesser experience. I think that's really important. It's really incredible what you guys can do.
There's a lot of paperwork around.
I'm sure.
That's one of those juicy behind the scenes facts that we don't even think about. All the paperwork.
Well,
it is important to us that the guest only gets asked their name once. And so that, from coat check to where they're seated, we ideally only ever have to ask what your name is once. And from there on out, for the rest of the evening, anyone in our service team knows exactly who you are, what you can and cannot enjoy, and even where you are in your evening in terms of course or a glass of wine, etc.
Right. And it makes such a difference to greet somebody by name and remember their name.
Absolutely.
In the history that you guys have been doing this, is there a particular like event that you guys, had to like, make special or arrange in a certain way that was really fun on your end to like help create like something that you're like, yes, this was actually, it was different, it was interesting, it was not what we usually do, but it was really, fun overall.
Yeah, I think the Kirby Cove one is probably one of the front runners.
Yeah.
I think that anytime we do weddings, it's a blast.
Yeah.
And you just get so involved with the couple, or we've done a throuple wedding before too, and it's just so exciting, and you just know that you have made them lifelong memories, and that's something that we strive to do literally for every guest that walks in our door. But there's just this inference of a relationship with the people whose weddings you do. I still talk to every bride I've ever done, and it's so, and you just love it. And so I think that's always really exciting. We do a women's leadership reception every year to focus on women leaders in hospitality. And so it's actually a completely complimentary event for our attendees. And it's just to sort of focus on mentorship with women and sort of, as we see more and more women becoming leaders in our industry, how we can support each other. And that is always just a really phenomenal event. And it makes us so nervous because it's all of our peers. It's all other industry, GMs and chefs and restaurateurs. And we do it on a day that we're generally closed. Okay. So also to see the entire staff rally to work a 6th day because they're just so excited to do this event that means so much. I think that's one of our most memorable ones as well.
That event, is it like you guys are like X, Y, and Z is invited, or is it like, how does that work? Like, how are you
we send out invites. Okay. We send out invites sort of to a wide swath. I think, this will be year 4 that I've done this event.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And the first year and I think every year, we really want to make sure, because the focus is mentorship, that we're not just reaching out to executive chefs and GMs. We want intro sommeliers and line cooks because they are the next leaders. So you need to meet these people so that like, is this, how do I build my voice? How do I find my management style? But the way we've done it in the past, and I'm actually a little behind on planning it for this year, but it is invite only, but we make the RSVP link shareable. So, for example, if you, Sarah, received the invite, you could pass it to the people in your office. I mean, we have obviously a very finite capacity. We don't have a lot of space for these style events. The guest list can't really exceed 75. But that way we don't feel like we're picking and choosing. It's just sort of like whoever can RSVP first.
So if you sent it to some executive chef who is making strides, she could invite a line cook who is demonstrating, the ability to someday be a managing chef or an executive chef.
Exactly. And then it is completely free. Like Lazy Bear hosts it every year with, obviously we get a lot of support from our purveyors. And then we do a chosen charity each year. So as an attendee, like we just recommend that you do a donation to a chosen charity. And it's generally either industry or female based charity.
Cool. Sorry, go ahead.
I had one thing that I kind of wanted to bring up just because it's been on my mind over the last couple of questions, is this connecting power of food and dining. And I think that's something that rings true for a lot of people in the culinary industry and those of us who love to dine. Like food is a connecting factor, and enjoying really good food together with people. And like, I don't know, I was wondering if you'd like to speak to that a little bit.
I love feeding people, and I'm not a cook. I'm not a chef. I mean, I cook at home. I think it's, when we talk about the basic needs of humanity, right? It's like water, shelter, food, and contact. And I think that there's very little industries that are in a place that are offering all of those things to every person that walks in your door. And we get to do that. And so I love telling the story. I love, drove a friend to Tahoe a couple of days ago, but he got to my house, we were packing the car, and I was like, are you hungry? Are you thirsty? Do you need this? I have snacks packed in the car. I just think that it hits us all, I guess, period. We don't have to say what level it is. Yeah. There's not a single person I know who doesn't eat or isn't thirsty at some point. And so I think that to see someone and say, as simple of like, is there anything I can get you, is just infers a level of care that like, I care about whatever state you're in now, and I would like to make it better. And I think it's just it's a base level of humanity that not a lot of people see for what it is. And so I just think it's so great. I think it's the best.
In the events industry, I feel like, or events in general, the food is often the thing that people like recall the most. Yeah. So in your experience, like, what's like one of your favorite memories of like what you guys have done? I mean, I'm assuming you guys, your options may evolve as the year goes on based on the seasons, but is there one particular like season or dish that you were like really like this like really made people happy and it really left a mark?
Yes. I mean, there's so many. It's hard for me to pick one. I think like right now, what's on the menu, we have such a phenomenal menu right now. But I love our fondue dish, and it's, it's just sort of,
I love cheese.
There's that, right? Like I love cheese. And we use an amazing like cloth-bound cheddar, we use Fiscalini cheddar, and it's married with sunchokes and black trumpet mushrooms, and then of course we shave a ton of Perigord truffle on top. But it's not overly complicated. Obviously, we made it complicated in how we prepare it, but I think again, going back to Sarah's question of like, why do we love feeding people? It's because you're bringing a warmth to the internal aspect of someone. Yeah. And I just feel like that, what else to do that with other than fondue? Like you literally feel it warm you from the inside out. So that's probably one of my favorites right now. We always do, or almost always do, a broth course. And I love those. We have a spectacular, kind of palate cleanser on the menu right now that I just love, and it sort of just pivots. You go from this very rich Wagyu dish and then into this like just light and bright citrus and buttermilk and refreshing palate cleanser that I think is a bit of a surprise a lot. So it's also, being able to kind of give someone the unexpected. People talk a lot about playlists or sort of just cadence of a lot of aspects of our lives, and menus run the same way. So similarly, to how a seated dinner is, I feel the same way about a standing reception. Is there does need to be a bit of a crescendo. You don't want to walk in the door and like have short rib shoved in your face when you're going to be there for 3 hours. I think, we do treat our receptions similar to a seated dinner. You are going to crescendo. We're going to start with, a whipped scrambled egg and some oysters and some of the lighter bites, and then sort of go up to some of the heavier items, and then finally conclude with some dessert. So it feels a little bit more of a natural flow of how an evening should go.
Well, I'm hungry now.
I know. My stomach literally just growled. Like, my stomach actually just growled. Eming, I think we made a mistake.
I didn't even talk about the bread and butter yet. Oh, no, just kidding.
Don't even go there. That's my favorite course. Are you kidding?
I know. Well, we always say that everyone does a bread course, but we do a butter course.
Oh, okay. We have to go now.
Okay, yeah, I want to go.
We have to schedule a thing. I don't care when. Right, I don't care how much we're going.
February 1st, you're releasing reservations for March, right?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay, good. Duly
Eming, I think we
noted.
did make a mistake scheduling this before lunch because
I
now
know,
I'm
but
like,
I didn't think about that until now.
I'll take it. It's my fault. Sorry. It
No,
was
you're
my
fine.
schedule.
You know
was
what?
You're
the
fine.
issue.
It was
You've
worth
done
it.
great way to end the show. I really appreciate it. But our last question, let's start. You have another question to ask before we
I
wrap.
don't.
Okay.
Let's jump into
So
it.
traditionally, we ask our guests a question about.
Traditional.
Traditionally, we try. Based on all your experiences working in the restaurant and whatnot, what's something that you've learned that you feel a planner could learn from on their end of things?
In other words, our trademark way of framing this question is, what's in your toolbox?
Oh, no detail is too small. No detail is too small. I am known for this asinine Google sheet that is called my critical path. And I use it to open restaurants. I use it for every event prep, for everything. And it's down to the timing of when you load in and load out of something and when breakdown should happen. And if you're doing an organized toast, what time is that toast? Who's the person speaking? So therefore, when do you pour it? When do you pass it out? When do you prompt? Where is that speaker standing? I just, no detail is too small.
Beautiful.
Awesome. Thank you.
I think that applies to the events world too.
Yes.
I think that applies to
definitely.
the journalism world. I think, whoever's out there listening, you can apply that to anything you want to. Beautifully said,
Yeah, and I
Colleen.
think small details also have the power of making the biggest impression on the guests. So
like remembering someone's name.
Exactly. And I think
definitely.
that sometimes people are like, oh, people won't notice that. Someone will notice that. And especially in the world of Instagram, that's going to be the thing someone posts about. If you
Definitely.
get a handwritten note, or if that handwritten note is written on seeded paper that is seeded with local herbs,
Beautiful, yes.
little things
Wow.
like that.
That's an experience.
Yeah.
It's an experience.
That's an experience for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I hope our audience, your future guests, hopefully they are also as hungry as we are and want to try Lazy Bear, because I know I do.
I do.
But thank you, Colleen, so much for joining us today. We
Yes,
really
thank you
appreciate it. It was
both.
really fun for me and my stomach.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it was definitely fun for my stomach. It'll be more fun for my stomach when I actually go dine there.
I know.
Yes.
Yes,
But
please do. I can't
Thank
wait
you.
to see
Oh my
you
gosh.
both.
Thank you so much for taking the time to
Yes,
speak
thank
with
you so
us.
much.
You had such wonderful, beautiful insights. And yeah, thank you. Every detail counts.
Yes. Thank you. Have a great week, everyone.
You too. That was such a great discussion with Colleen. As I'm sure you can tell, I really, really loved what she had to say about the concept of communal dining. I think that really speaks to what the events world does. Just like events bring people together, sharing a great meal brings people together. So
Right.
yeah, shout out to Colleen. Thank you for joining us. Next up, we have Mark Liberman. He is the executive chef of Mago Oakland, and he is just a culinary genius if you just listen to him talk. And his restaurant is super, super special. So I think we should just jump right into his story.
Let's go. Well, greetings, Mark. Hope you are doing well today I'm assuming you're in your hometown of Oakland,
I am at the restaurant.
I won't assume
Yeah.
it's your hometown,
Awesome.
but I'm going to say it's your hometown of Oakland. How are you this lovely, lovely day?
I'm good this morning.
Wonderful.
Or this day, I guess. It's not morning anymore. Afternoon.
I guess it's
It's
12
morning
27.
somewhere. It's morning
It's
somewhere.
morning somewhere. Not morning in Oakland, but we love Oakland. We're just a little bit up north in Sausalito, so it's super fun to talk to somebody local.
Yeah. So the premise of us asking you on is because, we have been exploring a lot of F&B options in the Bay Area, specifically for spaces that allow for events to be held. And you guys seem like you do that and more. So we just kind of want to get a sense of like who you guys are, what you do, what you stand for, and what someone who's looking for an event space can use with you guys.
Sure. So we're a fine dining Latin restaurant. We generally do we offer a tasting menu in our dining room that ranges anywhere from 10 to 12 courses. But for private events and F&B, we offer a few different menu options within that realm. It's still a tasting menu format or a prefix format, but it's I find that when you're doing larger parties, they don't want to do 12 courses. Just because it takes a long time. It takes a long time to do 12 courses for 4 people.
Right.
But we're doing for like 10 people or 20 people or 30 people, it turns into just a long experience for the guests. And we find that generally like most of our guests opted for a 4-course or a 6-course menu.
Okay. Oh wow.
Cool.
Okay.
That's interesting.
It's about the same amount of food.
Okay.
It's just portion sizes. It's just different portion sizes for like our proteins and salads, ceviches and such.
Cool. As we get started, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your backstory, this restaurant's backstory, kind of your beginnings, and how you ended up being what you are today.
Yeah. So I started cooking pretty young. I got the bug when I was like 10 or 11 from... I'm dating myself, but this pre-Food Network, so it was all PBS.
Okay.
So it was all like Martin Yan. I grew up in the Bay Area, so it was a lot of PBS stuff. So Yan Can
We
Cook.
also both grew up in the Bay, so
Yeah. So I mean, I grew up watching those food shows. I love the Great Chef series, and so I started cooking. I got in the kitchens when I was like 15 as a dishwasher. And then I worked my way to a prep cook, and then I worked my way through high school in like a little local hotel restaurant in Sacramento. Decided I wanted to go to culinary school, so I went to culinary school at that point, right out of high school. Then I kind of like traveled around a lot to different cities. I always kind of came back to the Bay Area because it's my home.
Right.
But I worked in New York. I worked in Las Vegas. I worked in Paris. I worked in Florida. And then I'd always kind of like have these stints back in San Francisco or Napa. And then back in 2010, I just decided I was kind of over traveling to different cities, and I wanted to make the Bay Area my home again. So at that point, I opened a restaurant in the city in San Francisco with this guy I met, Matt Semelheck, and we opened up a restaurant called AQ that was on 7th and Mission. We were there for, I guess, like about 5 years. We opened like 4 other restaurants in the meantime, so it was a lot that happened in those 5-6 years. And in 2017, we closed everything. And my cooking background was primarily French Italian. So like I always worked in I was kind of a Francophile for a long time. So I always ended up working in a lot of French restaurants, and then I kind of migrated to Italian restaurants. I'd never done a lot of American food prior to Mago. So we closed everything in 2017. I had just had my first child. She was 1 at the time, and I kind of was just burnt out. Like we had 5 restaurants. I was going full speed, and it just took a toll on me mentally and my body. So I decided to take a year off and kind of just spend time with my kid. Be a stay-at-home dad, which was great. But ultimately, I missed having a restaurant or working in restaurants. I didn't really want to work for anyone else. I kind of was just like, I'm at that point in my career, like the idea of working for somebody else doesn't really, even though it would probably be like so much easier to work for a big company.
It's, it has its moments.
It has its pros and cons. So yeah, I decided in 2018 that I wanted to open a restaurant again. So I started looking in San Francisco originally, just because that's where I spent most of my years cooking. But ultimately, I was living in Oakland at the time. And so it didn't make sense for me to be in San Francisco anymore and what I wanted the restaurant to be.
Right.
And my wife had some stipulations that it had to be kind of like within like a 20-mile radius of where we live.
Smart woman.
Being in San Francisco, like it's like an hour away, even though it's not an hour away.
Traffic will kill you.
Traffic.
With traffic and with having kids, it's like I just want to be more involved in everyday life and not just like go to the restaurant every day. So I started looking at restaurants. I found a space on Piedmont Avenue. It was a Cybel's Pizza space. So it had been here for like 30 years. So I inherited a lot of issues with a 30-year restaurant. But so we opened I think we got the keys in November of 2018, and we opened in June of 2019. So it was a pretty fast turnaround. And then obviously we were open for like 6-7 months, and pandemic hit us.
Yeah.
When we first opened, we were a different restaurant. We were an a la carte restaurant that was still very much like seasonal, menu changed constantly. but it wasn't a tasting menu, and it wasn't Latin focused. It was just kind of California cuisine.
Okay.
And then the pandemic hit us in March, where we had to furlough everybody. We kind of just like did all sorts of everything we could to like survive. We did takeout food, we did meal kits, we did cooking classes. So it was all sorts of things we did to make it through those 2 years of insanity.
Congrats on that, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not many people survive that.
Big deal.
So big congrats for that.
So yeah, I think at some point when we were able to open again, it was outdoor dining. We have a patio in the back of the restaurant, and at the time, I mean, it's still a very small patio. We had 5 tables that we could, because it was like the whole 6 feet
Right.
apart and
Social
everything.
distancing.
Yeah, social distancing.
Yeah.
So like we only had 5 tables in the backyard. So to make it kind of like financially viable to open again, I was like, we have to do like a set menu, because having an a la carte option where people just come and spend like $10 for a pasta or whatever, like it was just like it didn't make sense. So I think when we opened, it was still pretty cheap. It was like $55 for like 4 courses, just to get people like back out. And I think even at that point, it wasn't Latin inspired. I think the Latin inspired kind of came. I had my dad passed away during COVID,
I'm sorry.
and so like but it kind of like forced me to like kind of like rethink like what was important to me, and like kind of the food I was cooking I wasn't happy with. It was just kind of like California cuisine is great, but it's just like a hodgepodge of like whatever you want to do. And so I kind of want to just focus on something that was more personable, and I'm half Colombian. And I never, like I said, I'd never done Latin food before, like professionally. And I never done Colombian food professionally. And I kind of just dove down that whole path of like speaking with my mom and my aunts, and kind of like learning more about that side of the culture. It's food I grew up eating, but like I said, like I didn't grow up, I didn't like cook it ever really. I cooked some stuff at home, but I didn't like really like dive down the whole path of like what it meant to like cook that regional cuisine, especially because like my family's from the Caribbean coast side, and like that food is very different from like inland or Bogota. So I hadn't really ever explored all the various regions of Colombia.
Right.
And so yeah, I think in 2022 is when I pivoted to focusing on Colombian cuisine, kind of through our California lens a little bit.
Okay.
Amazing.
So your name is very interesting.
It's
for
not
your
Colombian at all. Oh, the name of the restaurant. Oh, yes.
But it's very magical, literally, very, very quite magical.
Yeah.
Why that name?
Yeah. So Mago was my nickname at
Oh,
AQ.
okay.
And it was something that the sous chefs had named me behind my back, and I didn't realize anyone was calling me this. And I found out later that like this was my name, that like the sous chefs had called me, and then the cooks started calling me this.
Nice.
And so when I opened the restaurant, I just named it after that nickname. And it kind of
That's
like
really
I said, it wasn't
cool.
Latin inspired originally, but it kind of just worked its way into like
Right.
because it
Definitely.
is Spanish.
Cool. I think one of the things about food, cuisine, dining is that it's a space for connection. In so many cultures, people gather over food and connect over food. And in our culture, if you want to catch up with an old friend, you might go to a restaurant. Or if you're going on a date, you go to a restaurant. Or if you want to get to know a business partner or potential business partner a little better, you might go to a restaurant. So
Right.
I'd be interested in hearing a little bit more about your perspective on the connecting power of food, of dining and of fine dining.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we do here is a little different in that, like, I love fine dining, but I think I also don't love fine dining because it does bring a lot of, as someone that goes out to a lot of, I mean, I used to go before I had kids, but we used to go to a lot of fine dining restaurants, tasting menus, and I love the tasting menu format because it definitely allows myself, but also allows the guests to kind of just be at ease and let us take care of them. But I don't always love all the bells and whistles that come with fine dining. So we really try to create a very warm environment. And like when I talk to the servers, my focus is always about hospitality first, and not so much like steps of service are important because it's necessary to make sure things happen at a proper time and make sure things are very smooth as far as like table clearing and markings. But really, like, I'm more focused on hospitality and creating that personal connection with our guests.
Right.
So we do have a lot of regular customers that come a lot, which I think is very rare for a fine dining restaurant. And I think one of the reasons is when we change our menu every day, so there's that. But also I think one of the reasons is because we really try to push our servers, our cooks who drop a lot of the food to like really create a connection with the people that are dining with us and make it feel like you're not just like another number or another just seat number at the restaurant.
That's very thoughtful. So in terms of like when people are hosting events at your restaurant, like what's kind of the vibe that you kind of want them to kind of experience and walk away with?
I mean, I can think it depends on the event that's happening.
Okay, fair.
There's definitely like holiday parties, which are very just festive. And then we have also like a lot of pharmaceuticals that come through and they're just doing a presentation and they're not really engaging with us at all. They're just here to have a meal and have a business meeting.
Gotcha.
Although
I would say most of our events are more, even the business ones are definitely more convivial where like they're having a good time. All our parties happen in our back patio.
Okay.
So that's like our private event space.
Gotcha.
It's covered. It's got heaters. It's like a little garden back there, so it's actually pretty nice. And it gets actually really hot back there with all the heaters. We have to like kind of like control it. But it's definitely I think a lot of our guests really enjoy it back there. Like it's very private, but it also doesn't feel like a stuffy private dining room.
Definitely.
Right.
I had a quick question. When you said that like you have a lot of pharmaceuticals and they're kind of there to have a presentation and have a meal, but they don't really interact with you, I still think that it says something that they would choose your restaurant. They would choose a fine dining setting, specifically Mago, for the setting. I mean, I don't know. What do you?
And
what
the
do you
food's
think
probably
about
really
that?
good too.
Yeah, I'm certain. What do you think about that? Like, even if you're having a meeting, you're not really interacting with it, but you still want to have like that kind of fine dining meal. I think it speaks to the relevance of that kind of setting.
Yeah, I think it, like I say, it's a very warm environment back there. I think it's different from a lot of places that a lot of those companies go to, and that like sometimes they just end up in like private dining rooms where it's just sterile. And I think that our food and beverage is really good. So from the cocktails to the wine program to the food itself, we customize the menu. Since we change our menu every day, so there's nothing really set in stone as far as what is in place. So even when we do the private events, like if a guest wants a menu in advance, like we'll write the menu in advance for them, especially if there's a lot of dietary restrictions.
Yeah.
But generally, like I tell the guests, like this is how we roll. If you're cool with it, we'll just let me know like what is the dietary restrictions for the evening, and we'll customize the menu for you for that evening. Which I think a lot of people like, a lot of businesses like too.
Definitely. So to talk a little bit more about your events, you offer a pretty wide range. Like you have, these hosted dinners where like you can have some group gather on the back patio. You also offer buyouts, right? Yeah, and cooking classes and lots of fun stuff. So there's a lot of versatility.
Yeah, so we do offer buyouts. And obviously you have the patio and the full dining room.
Right.
And we've done all sorts of different buyouts. We've done sit down dinners. We've done just kind of like family style, like buffets kind of thing where people can just gather and grab food. We've done appetizer parties. No one has done the cooking class parties yet. I've got some inquiries, but we do cooking classes usually once a month. Just for like small groups, but it is one of the things that I think it'd be fun for a private event to like have a cooking class,
for sure,
and then kind of like eat dinner a little bit, just because it's a little bit different from the norm of just sitting down and having a dinner. But yeah, we've definitely offered a few different options for those buyouts that I think a lot of our guests enjoy.
So when you're working with like an event planner and such, like how closely do you work with them, and how much info do you need from them to like make this like a successful event for them?
I've worked with a handful of event planners. Like right now, I'm the person that does all this, the private events, and so I'm also learning a little bit on the job. But
as we all do,
yeah, I think I try to let them know what we do and how we do it, and kind of showcase like what we do well, and then I try to like see what they want. A lot of the event planners I worked with have been pretty laissez-faire as far as letting us organize it. but I definitely like want to know if the event planner, has specifics that they want to happen, especially if there's like things that have to happen at certain times.
Right.
If there's like speeches. So I try to get all that information from the event planner prior to the event happening. Because generally on the days of the event, I'm the one cooking.
Right.
So I try to relay all that information to the team in the front of the house, in the dining room. But at the same time, like, I don't want to have to be stifled down by like too many questions about like what's happening next or what time is this supposed to happen. I really want to iron all those details out prior with the event planner to make sure like it's all in paper and documents that I can just pass to the dining room people, the servers and the sommelier to be kind of like, at 6 o'clock we have to do this, and 7 o'clock this is what has to happen. So I do try to iron that out with the event planner prior to everything being finalized. Try to iron out all the menu options. And then also I'll get my beverage director or manager involved if they want to choose wines, choose cocktails, especially for the bigger parties. I find it's we try to limit. We don't want to have we have an open bar, so if someone does want like a martini, we can make a martini, but we don't want to generally offer like the entire cocktail menu because it kind of hampers the flow of service if there's like 10 cocktails that people can choose from. So we try to also let the event planner and the guests choose a few custom cocktails for the evening, a few bottles of wine, beers, and etc.
Okay. Well, since you've just kind of started doing this, is there something that you've maybe like learned that you were fascinated by or were surprised by, like either requests or things that people didn't know off the hand if you asked? Like, was there anything that like surprised you about these experiences so far?
Yeah, like, people get surprised by like taxes. Like, is tax included? I'm like, tax is not included.
Money.
Or like, yeah.
Gotcha.
I've had a few people that are like, oh, this includes tax. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't. I'm
You're in
I'm
California, people. Come on.
Yeah, it's California. But I'm like, anywhere you go in California, you have to pay tax.
Inflation, people. Inflation
Yeah,
is
so
real.
like, people are like, oh, I didn't know this was going to be like, I thought this was like all inclusive. I'm like, no, there's nothing all inclusive about this price.
All inclusive. It's not a resort.
Even like at the contract, it says like it's the price per person plus
Right.
gratuity plus. Yeah, so that's one of the things I've gotten. I don't charge a service charge. I mean, we do like a gratuity. We do an autograph, but we don't do I don't do a room fee. We just kind of do an F&B minimum.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it
That's
changes.
very nice
It's
of
very
you.
day per day. Yeah, if it's like a Monday party versus like a Friday party.
Okay.
Kind of thing.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think we just decided to do that instead of like a room fee. But,
Okay.
Of events that you've held in the past, is there anything that really stands out to you? Any favorite event memories that you look back on?
we did a really fun ugly sweater holiday party.
Fun.
Aw.
So that was
must
really
have been
fun. Yeah, that was really fun. There were a lot of people that got dressed up. Some people got really dressed up. But I think it was a
like
overall
full
just a
Santa
really,
attire?
not full Santa attire, but like full outfit attire.
Cool.
Yeah, but that was a fun party. They really enjoyed themselves. It was a full buyout of the restaurant, so like they went they were like in the patio, they were like at the bar. So like they really made space, like use of the entire space. So that was a fun event. As of recently, like I think we had some really good holiday parties this past December that were just kind of
Tis
smaller.
the season.
Yeah, there's a lot of holiday parties. But we didn't have to. We had one that was for Yelp, for like 30 people, and they had a blast. They really they drank a lot, and they were like really fun. And they wrote actually a lot of good Yelp reviews. From the
Nice.
event.
That's always great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome. I would hope the people who work at Yelp leave Yelp reviews.
I know.
Yeah, I was surprised. I was like, oh, you actually do Yelp reviews.
Awesome. And I'm sure you're happy as the restaurant owner that they did too. You're like, well,
Yes.
if I'm bringing Yelp.
Yeah. They did send me like I did get like an award from Yelp for like best something,
What?
but they spelled my name wrong.
Wow.
Oh.
Oh.
Oh my gosh. That's
still
exciting
really cool.
though. That's really cool.
So in your experience thus far, like what's something that you feel like you've learned about the industry and about working events that you feel can like, help shape how you move forward in the future?
What have I learned? I just try to be more communicative with like the guests and the client. I feel like a lot of people just in general, like they're not sure of like what to expect, especially when we get a lot of. I think like the business ones are kind of like more. They're like used to like booking events, but I feel like a lot of times when we get like someone celebrating like a 40th birthday party kind of thing, they're not sure like what to expect, and I really try to like communicate with them to let them know like this is what we're gonna do, this is what's gonna happen. Do you have any questions? And really try to like find out like what to make them feel at ease, so when they come in, like they don't have to stress about anything.
Right.
So I think that is one thing I've learned, just to be like emails are good, but I'm also like, if you ever want to just jump on the phone and just talk through some of this process, I feel like that's a little more helpful than just the constant email back and forth. So that's one thing I've learned. And I think for us, like the future for 25 is just to really like kind of keep pushing those private events through different avenues.
Right.
And I'm still learning what those avenues are, you know, because right now everything is kind of like internal for us, like as far as marketing. It's all like through our newsletter and through our social media, but trying to find different places where I can advertise that we do have a private event space in the back of the restaurant, or we can do a buyout. So I think that's something that, we're working on, kind of like more letting people know that is part of what we do here.
Right.
Definitely.
Also, sorry, Sarah, go ahead.
I was going to ask a question.
Go ahead. Go for it.
Okay. Well, I was going to ask you, how do you think having a fine dining experience elevates an event? How does it change an event from a regular meeting to something around, you know, having that meeting over a fine dining meal?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I say, like what we do here is I think we take a lot of the best of fine dining and kind of like really elevate that, and then some of the things we kind of just we're like, we don't want to do that. But I think one of the things that I really like to see, especially with the business ones, is where like the food comes out and they all kind of stop talking about business and start talking about the food or the beverages. So I think we really put a lot of effort in making sure like the food is hot, which is one of the reasons like why we don't do like the 12 courses in the patio, because it's a lot of steps for us to serve like 25 people to make sure it's hot. So we design the food a little differently for the events than we would do for the main dining room, and that it's a little bit easier for us to plate, still like really nice and still elevated, and we still use really good products, but it's not as, I guess, fussy or finicky. It's really focused on making sure that it's cooked properly, that it's seasoned well, that it's hot, the plates are hot, and there's still a lot of attention to detail, but it's not super like tweezered out and like different things on there. It's just very like, maybe it's like 3 or 4 components, and the guests get the food and it's like kind of just, they're very happy with it. So I think that's something that I think we pay a lot of attention to detail when we design the food for the events, is that it's a little bit more, I guess, streamlined a little bit from what we normally do, but it's still very elevated and it's still very much in the fine dining realm of what we normally do in the dining room, but it just takes us not as long to plate, I guess.
Okay.
Totally.
My question for you is, since Oakland has recently been listed as like the top restaurant foodie destination spot of like the United States, what makes you guys, in your personal opinion, what makes you guys stand out among all the other restaurants that are in that area? Of like, this is the spot to like come eat, whether it be friends, family, or your work people, or an event. Like, what makes you guys stand out as like the place to be in Oakland right now?
I mean, I think we kind of try to embody Oakland in that like we are a little bit more of an edgy fine dining restaurant. I think Oakland is still kind of like I wouldn't say Oakland's edgy, but it's definitely not San Francisco. It's still kind of like got a little bit of, I mean, it's still very much an urban city.
Definitely.
And so our music's a little louder and it's a little bit more fun. Our service is a little more relaxed. Like we all wear t-shirts in the kitchen. So it's definitely a little bit more of like an Oakland vibe, I think, in what we do. We often get compared. So like there's us and another restaurant that does tasting menu in Oakland. They're just down the street from us. And they're a really good restaurant. They're a 2 Michelin-starred restaurant. But like we always get compared to them because we're a tasting menu restaurant.
Okay.
But we're very different. Like we're like I said, like we take ourselves very seriously, but also like we want to enjoy what we do. And I
Right.
think that kind of embodies a little bit of Oakland, and that like people can come here and it's very relaxed.
Right. Yeah.
And
Approachable.
like we talked about the hospitality notion, like it's very like everyone spends a little bit extra time talking to the guests.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's always very
Yeah,
thoughtful.
I think it's just it's a very energetic kind of like fine dining restaurant, which I think
Nice.
Totally.
feels right in Oakland at this time.
Totally.
Nice.
Yeah, and I think also
Well-
like we do like our food's very different too. Like it's very personal. Like it's not it's Colombian, but also like I'm not from Colombia. I was born in the Bay Area, and so I'm not trying to like what we do here is influenced by like Colombia and South America, but like we also primarily use ingredients from California. So it's a very like kind of personal approach to cooking.
Love it. Do you have any favorite menu items?
I don't, because the menu changes all the time.
I know. Oh my gosh.
I mean, the one thing we always serve is we always serve arepas. Arepas are kind of like what it's my mom's recipe, and it's something that's been on the menu since we've switched to doing
Wow.
Colombian food. So that's something that's always on the menu. It changes seasonally, like what's on it or what's garnished with it. But that's always the one thing that's been on the menu since we've opened with this concept. But everything else changes every day, so I don't really have anything that's like my favorite or signature dish.
Right, right. But it's all amazing, I'm certain.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, since we are, in your area, we might definitely come by at
We
some
might have to
point.
stop by. Eming and
It
I are
definitely
making a
sounds
list.
amazing. Sarah, do you want to ask the last question?
Yeah, so we always kind of close out by asking you what is in your toolbox, as in what's something that has either propelled you forward or that you kind of rely on as you continue to build your restaurant. And what's like one hot tip that you would say creates your success?
I think we're a very small team here at Mago, and I think I really try to surround myself with people that want to genuinely be here and are genuinely warm and hospitable people by nature.
Right.
Whether that's the cooks, the porters, the servers, the bartender. That's one thing that I've being in a small restaurant, like I don't feel the need to like if someone doesn't want to work with me or be here, like I don't want you to here.
Right.
So I think it's important, even if it's a big restaurant, to kind of surround yourself with people that sometimes are better than you at things. Because we really try to have a very collaborative environment here at the restaurant. It doesn't always play out that way, just because at times we used to have to make decisions.
Right.
But I do try to surround myself with people that can bring ideas to the table, that do want to work here and want to be part of this project. And I think that makes it a lot easier, even when it's those tough days. It's like, okay, like I'm working with people that like genuinely want to like be here and work with me. And I'm not like,
Nice.
I think we've all worked in places where you just work with people that you're like, why are you so bad? Or like they're always late, or like they're just like they just genuinely suck. And so having a small team allows me to kind of like handpick who works there.
Right. Well, as also a small team, we can relate to that. So thank
We're
you
a very
again so
small
much,
team.
Mark.
Yeah.
This was
Yeah, you're
really
welcome.
great.
It was really cool to get your perspective. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for taking the time to
You're
talk
very
to
welcome.
us.
Yes, it's really interesting, like how when we were when Mark was talking, he really like referenced like how his family background really like inspired his work. I think that's really that really I appreciate that because like we all come from something, and it's very special when
Yeah.
you're able to like put a part of you or where you come from or your background into what you do for a living.
Totally.
And people are able to share that with people.
Totally.
I think it's really special, and it
is.
feels like someone's. And one particular thing that was said across the interviews, I feel like for the most part, was like people they really want to create like a vibe, like a specific
Yeah,
vibe that like relates to like where you are. Like you're in
definitely.
Oakland or San Francisco, like that's definitely reflective of that.
Right.
And I think these really go out of their way to be like, you're here. We're gonna make you feel like this is our home
Yeah.
in Oakland, in San
Yes.
Francisco.
There's something really special about feeding people. I think that it really is a way of demonstrating just genuine love and care, to welcome people into your restaurant, which is a reflection of your inspirations, your background, your passion. That's what all of these incredible people do. And yeah, food, providing people with good food is a way to connect them, connect with them, and to just share the love.
For our last segment, we spoke with the co-founder and co-owner of Bardo Oakland, Seth Bregman. He was really great. He talked a lot about like how also his family influence was a big part in how he, you know, developed his business. It's really great that there's like this community developing that's like getting really strong enough to like get noticed on a broader scale that is bigger than the city itself.
Absolutely. Yeah. And they deserve to be noticed, as you were hearing right in your own ears. So let's jump into our chat with Seth. Hello, listeners. We are back at it again with Seth Bregman, who is the co-owner and co-founder of Bardo in Oakland, along with his wife, Jenny, the other co-owner and co-founder. And we are here to talk a little bit more about fine dining and why it makes a fabulous setting for events. Thank you so much for being here, Seth.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Nice to be here with
So, thank you. So that's kind of the problem with the podcast is like we are always here and there talking over each other. It's like, oh, oops, no, you go. No, you go. No, it's okay. No, you go. Yeah.
you.
But
Respect the delay, huh?
yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
But in any case, to start us off, would you tell us a little bit about your origin story, Bardo's origin story?
Sure. We've had this idea for Bardo for quite a while. And what we wanted to create was a kind of home entertaining environment that really felt like you were maybe visiting a close friend or celebrating at a relative's house that had like a really nice 1960s swank feel, like you're sitting in their living room.
Cool.
And part of that came from my upbringing as a child, basically helping my mom throw all these parties in the late 60s and early 70s. And she had this really a real taste for design. So she had really nice mid-century modern furniture. And, in those days, like all the houses had a wet bar. And so I got familiar with the wet bar. And so I was the bartender. And
At
even
your
at a
mom's
young age,
parties?
at my mom's parties, that's right.
Awesome.
And so, and back, at that time, people put a lot of time and care into like home entertaining, and having friends over. And, everyone had like their own really nice glassware and nice sets of china, and they would work on special recipes and just kind of go all out for folks. And so we wanted to create a situation that kind of felt a little bit like that you were not, you would certainly have kind of restaurant food and cocktails, as high quality as we could provide, but that it just felt like you were maybe in a slightly more comfortable setting that felt like you might be with friends and family.
Nice.
And so that's how it started. And we wanted it to feel like celebratory, like a little bit uplifted. So when people come to Bardo, you see people not like in formal dress per se, unless it's like a nice party, like a wedding or a company dinner or something. But people kind of step up their game a little bit because, it's an opportunity to kind of bring your best self out if you're going to be in like a nice environment that where the environment feels uplifted.
Beautiful.
We've had our Michelin recommended status for 4 years running now.
Awesome.
Wow, that's
Awesome.
amazing. That's really cool. That's really
Yeah.
cool.
And
Thank
for
you.
those who don't know, what is the Michelin recommended distinction? What does that mean?
Well, it's so, Michelin has a number of categories. So they have their star categories, which most people are familiar with. And, as you get sort of higher in the star status, the level of fine dining and service, those kind of standards and marks are pretty high. So
Right.
there's kind of a lot of expectation that you're going to get some super fine, a fine execution with food, with beverage, with service, with surroundings. It's very accomplished end result. And so there are other distinctions that people are less familiar with. Michelin Bib Gourmand is like a nice meal that's more for lower budget. For $40 or $50, you could go into a place and you're going to get, a nice entree and a side dish or
Right.
salad, and it's going to be at a certain price point. So they have their own category for that.
Right.
And then they have Michelin recommended, which is who ends up in the Michelin guide or guidebook. So when you go online for Michelin recommended restaurants, it'll usually be a combination of restaurants that have stars and ones that don't.
Cool.
So we don't have a star, and
Not
we don't
yet.
feel bad about
Maybe
that.
in the future. In the future. Never give up. Never give up hope. You never know.
Yeah, but we're happy with our Michelin recommended status.
Wonderful.
Sometimes people hold us to star standards, even though we technically don't have our star. But we aspire. We try to keep things at a high level, but
Right.
casual
Totally.
and not
Right.
pretentious
Yeah.
or uptight.
Yeah,
you could come in your
welcoming.
jeans, or you could come in your your fancy cocktail dress or suit or
Right.
whatever you feel like.
That versatility feels really hospitable.
Yeah. Being able to be yourself is really important, I think, for a lot of venues. Like, people need to, you can come dressed to the nines or, as long as you feel happy. I think that's usually the way people
Yeah.
should go.
Yeah, I think especially in like a meeting or event setting, when you're in like this kind of professional environment, if you're going to an amazing meal, you probably want to just feel more comfortable, let go a little, like take down the walls a bit. And if you're comfortable wearing a little bit of looser pants, because there's so much that I want to eat at your restaurant, then
Speaking of which, speaking of the food,
Real practical point of view.
then you have that option.
We've done like parties. I think like for the last New Year's, it's open to the public on New Year's Eve, but we do like
cool,
special, usually a prefix dinner. But last year we did like a loungewear theme. So
Cool.
come in your like most upscale sort of pajamas, or comfort wear. So yeah, we can go that route too.
That's awesome. Super
Yeah.
fun.
Nice. So if an event planner wants to work with you guys, like, what's something that you would like they would need to know, or like they should be thinking about, like, because like some people don't always know what they want when they come for an event. Like, what's something that you feel like they should already know when they speak with you guys?
I think that it depends what you're coming to us for. So if it's a corporate dinner, or company event, then I think we want you to understand the needs of your client, and also have the planner understand that we're basically, our core business is as a restaurant.
Right.
And so, as a restaurant, there's some things we can do and some things we can't. So, sometimes planners are used to kind of maybe like a hotel or a convention kind of provider, and that's not what we do. On the other hand,
Right.
we do kind of span a lot of services. So, we obviously have the food and beverage and can do like standing receptions, seated dinners, buffet dinners. We do like small private settings from like, as little as like 6 people to, 30 seated, and then full buyouts as well. So those are capacity up to 115. And those can be company dinners or birthdays or anniversaries. We do weddings, receptions and ceremonies. And then have like a full suite of services of, DJs and photographers, and we have floral connections. And I used to work in audiovisual, so we have professional sound equipment. We host bands.
That's very important for a lot of people.
So,
Yeah, it is.
And I do the tech work for
Okay. Oh,
for a lot of the
cool.
bands. I'm a musician myself.
Oh,
And
cool.
so
Oh my gosh, look at that
DJs,
skill set. Wow.
I know.
when you get to be as old as I am, you pick up a few things along the way. So we can really take care of clients at a lot of different levels. We have like a high definition projector and a big giant screen that can be seen from the entire restaurant. So that whole like audio-visual hotel convention world and banquet world is familiar to us. Our chef has worked in large-scale hotels, doing banquets for as many as 500. So we all kind of understand what goes into a successful event. And so for planners, I always want to, I just want to co-create with the planner, because sometimes planners will come in and they have a very specific thing that they want to do, but it's not really going to work in our space. So often it will, but sometimes it won't. And I'd like to have a collaborative sort of process so that they get the best out of us. And like I was talking to Jenny, we make planners look good because we know it's successful in our space.
Right.
Yeah. It's interesting that you say, like a restaurant space is different than a hotel or a convention center. Would you talk a little bit more about like what distinguishes an event from like being held in a convention space or a meeting room in a hotel when you move that meeting to a fine dining setting?
Yeah.
How do you think it elevates the event?
Well, I think for us, and and our food's really great, and sometimes the food is like fine dining. I just want to sort of make a slight distinction of we don't call ourselves fine dining per se.
Okay.
I'm not saying the food isn't fine dining quality. Just sometimes that can be a little off-putting or to folks, or like it feels too fussy.
Right. The approachability aspect.
Yeah, and so it's maybe that's just splitting hairs, but I think just to go back to your question of what makes it different is that we've curated an experience that feels local, that feels appropriate for like Oakland. We're not trying to sort of be something that we're not. And so what somebody gets with us is, all the furnishings here are like, we pick them out. We didn't hire a designer to like pick out the lighting or the art, or the tables and chairs, or the couches that we have. Like, we picked out every single item in the restaurant.
That's cool.
We also have a full collection of vintage glassware behind the bar. So all our cocktails are served in like actual vintage cocktail glasses.
Nice.
And so with that comes a kind of a hominess or a personalized feeling. Even the banquet dishes that we use for larger groups are like a really nice stoneware. It's not like your basic like white, catering plates that you might get at a hotel. We don't just serve chicken or fish for banquets. We have an evolved menu. That includes, filet mignon and a really innovative vegetarian and vegan food. And then our cocktail program is, it's not just gin and tonics and, kind of 5 or 6 of the basement brand spirits that are going to be at like a roll-up bar that you might get at convention hall. It's like, the cocktails are very thought out and creative and tasty, and they've been, tested across the entire staff and paired with the food. So like we've really thought a lot about what is going to end up on the table for people, and I think that kind of feeling, it feels special. It doesn't feel like when you come in and do an event here, it doesn't feel like you're one of 50 events. It feels like you're the only event.
So in terms of like as a guest, if I'm going to your restaurant and I'm going to experience my first time, like what is the experience like for someone who has not been here before?
So, if you're doing like probably an event that's like a company dinner, which is maybe, not a full buyout, you would be you would meet with a host person. When you first walk in, you'd see the beautiful big space. We have super high ceilings, 18 feet high, with exposed timber beams, beautiful
Nice.
1950s vintage chandelier in the middle of the space. You would know that you're not in your
Gorgeous.
ordinary restaurant.
Yeah.
And we really make an effort, in particular, like all the lighting is dialed in to be warm and ambient. And so it really kind of glows when you walk in.
Right. Cool.
The building also is an older building in the from the 30s. So one wall is exposed brick. Lots of wood paneling touches. So it just feels rich and lush. And so it was sort of get that vibe, and they're likely to hear music anywhere from like the 50s to current music. But if it's early in the evening, it might be like sort of cocktail-y lounge music. Also curated by us. Like every single song is like, it's there for a reason. And then we would escort you upstairs to our private mezzanine area, and that would be set. That's usually a space with up to 3 banquet tables, and a couch area with 2 lounge chairs. Incidentally, that couch is a refurbished couch from my mother, who had it in her house in the 70s. Beautiful mahogany Milo Bowman
That's
couch.
really cool.
I'm dropping some designer name credit, but
Yeah.
we refurbished it, and it's beautiful, and it's but that's what you get to enjoy. It's like a little bit of lounge, nice, beautiful tables set with there's some centerpieces there, and just and all our touches to make it like a nice candlelit, warm, beautiful dinner setting. Our upstairs is sort of like a den a little bit. It's got original artwork from the 50s, and some again, nice mid-century style lamps and lighting. You probably can see this thing up here.
Yeah.
That Sputnik
It's really
lamp.
gorgeous.
And and so you really feel like you're in a special setting. So that would be like for a smaller event. And then if you're doing a buyout, like for the whole space, the whole space is sort of like decked out in candlelight, and then we would likely have like a buffet station, or not an hors d'oeuvre station. Sometimes we'll do past hors d'oeuvres, and maybe there's floral arrangements again, like sort of soft and sultry music, usually to start the evening, and then we pick it up later. But that's kind of setting the stage, and then we've got our like really great cocktails coming out, and then the food is Michelin quality food. It's exceptional. Chef Ball Tonky, he's been with us for the last, I think, probably going on 5 years now. Has really created a great culinary program that can either it works for like hors d'oeuvres or hors d'oeuvres and dinner. So we do a lot of both. And and then at, various times through the evening, we turn down the lights, turn up the music, Sometimes there's a dance floor. People can bring in DJs. And like I mentioned, our house sound system is professional club quality. And so, we can really blow it out if folks want to do that.
Cool. Since you guys are based in Oakland, and I'm curious, since Oakland did win like it got the top spot for the most what was it, the greatest food in all the country situation. How
Top foodie city?
yeah,
Is that what it was? Top foodie city.
I think so.
Yeah,
So lucky to live so close.
Yeah. So because of that, like, what makes you guys like stand out in that respect? Like Oakland's like has a lot of options. So like for people who like, either if they're just like, gonna eat out with their family or go out with their workers or friends or events, whatnot, like what makes you guys stand out as like the spot that you guys that they should definitely like, at least try once and see how it is?
Sure. That's a good question. Well, part of, I think what is interesting about our cuisine, sometimes I call it innovative or modern comfort food, is that, sometimes comfort food is just like based on like American staples, like mac and cheese or meat and potatoes.
That's immediately what came to mind when he said comfort
Right?
food. I was like,
Meatloaf.
mac and cheese.
And we'll sometimes go there, but we're sort of we're sort of interested in stretching the envelope a little bit. So like we have this like really amazing, surprising to say as a comfort food, like this vegan risotto that's just awesome, with sunchokes and non-vegan meat eaters really enjoy it. So it's just like an example. We have an excellent seared duck breast, pomegranate seeds, and lovely sauce that's just people say like it's the best duck that they've had. And then we also have an excellent burger, and like our fries are just dialed in. I mean, I'm bragging, but it's really
Brag
just,
away.
right?
Please.
He should get the credit, because like I just almost everywhere I go for a burger and fries, very few compare to the burger and fries we're serving here, and it's just sort of like a basic smash burger, but it's quite good. So you can go like
Nice.
you don't have to like go super fancy, and we're still doing the basics of like fish and poultry, and meat. But one of the standouts right now is this sweet and sour crispy duck spring roll, served with like powdered sugar and a fruit-based jam, and it's just so delicious. And
That sounds so good. Yeah, it is.
So
It is.
Why
It
am I
sounds
hungry
great.
again? It's after lunch.
So, and there's a ton of great restaurants in Oakland, like with all kinds of great appetizing food. But we try to just keep it interesting, and we change up the menu every 3 months. So it's seasonal. We source everything local, make sure it's fresh. All our fish is sourced with a sustainable provider that does line and hook catches. And so we're just kind of we're very particular about who our providers are, and we're just really trying to put the best product we can out. Which is, it's challenging to do that at prices that people, are comfortable with.
Yeah.
because we have the same inflation as everybody else. And
Yeah.
Definitely.
the other thing
sorry, go ahead.
I would just mention is I feel like our service standards are pretty high. The team that's here right now is we have very little turnover. And we have a very cohesive staff that likes each other. And is really dedicated to like high quality guest experience. And so we would rather not serve somebody if we don't think we can do a good job of it. So we're always wanting to, we know we can do that, what we're doing is a high level, but we don't want to sort of compromise too much in order to make somebody else happy. if we feel like, hey, we're not going to do a good job with that. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
like if they want to seat 40 people in our space that only seats 30, you know, just be like, it doesn't work.
In your since you've been doing this for so long, is there something that you guys have learned about hosting events at your venue that, you know, has helped you kind of like, you know, adjust to like the fact that, you know, we were locked down for like 2 years, and or anything that like definitely like helped you, you know, look at the future and be like, you know, we should look at X, Y, or Z?
It's an interesting question. Well, we've learned a ton. I think some of the things, maybe the takeaway, like the answer to your question, is to really focus on what we do well. There's a lot of different things that we can do. Like during the pandemic, we made these like really amazing cocktail kits, which are great for like they come in a you know, a beautiful a branded Bardo box that you open, and then all these little bottles with like you know labels with our Bardo brand. And we put together like a little recipe book for it that you know looks like it came straight out of the mid-century, but we did all the production. One of our managers did all the design for it.
Cool.
And it's really an amazing piece of work, and I have to give the credit to the staff really for doing that. And maybe we could do a lot more of that, but I think it's an example of something that we could do a lot of things well, but we really want to focus on, you know, our restaurant offerings and not go too far off the track of trying to be something for everybody, or you know, broaden our offering too much, or try to be something for everybody. We're not for everybody.
Right. It's
we're more of like the kind of a little bit of the special occasion restaurant. If you've got something you want to celebrate, we should be first on your list, or at least up there.
Yeah.
Nice.
And
It's
if
kind
you're
of like
looking like,
sorry.
oh, well, and then I was going to say, and if you're looking more for like, you know, where could I get the most bang for my buck? Well, maybe we're not your first choice, you know? So, not that we're so much more expensive than anybody else, but just that, you know, part of the offering is basically like uplifted situation.
Yeah. I was just going to say, it's kind of like that thing where people say, you know, like how to tell if someplace is a really, really good restaurant where you're going to get like really good food is when they don't have a big menu, because that tells you that the people in that restaurant, the chefs, have perfected what is on the menu. And so if you do like, you focus on like the small details and you're able to do them really, really well. Yeah, and it's the same thing with creating an experience. I know we're talking about a restaurant, but I'm kind of talking about applying that to creating an experience.
It is an experience, though. It is.
And
Yeah, it
that's
totally is.
That's how we look at it. I came from the bar side of the business and was really, you know, spent a number of years working as a bartender in craft cocktail bars in San Francisco.
Okay.
And a little bit in Oakland, but we never it wasn't either of our aspiration to be restaurant owners, and it just kind of happened because this business became available for sale. It wasn't Bardo when we bought it; it was a French bistro.
Right. Okay.
But this basically goes to your comment about experience, and I think for us, you know, sometimes like a lot of people are putting together restaurants, and it's really based on like the credentials and the accomplishments of a particular chef, or a particular cuisine, or a particular bartender and their cocktail program, their point of view, and that's really important to us. That's included. But what's also important to us is, as you were saying, Sara, the notion of experience, and we feel like we would rather have the food be maybe not as perfect as it could be, or the cocktails not as perfect as they could be, and have the environment be sort of play a part in the whole experience. That's curated, that the lighting and the music and the hospitality, the friendliness, the familiarity of our staff with the product, and helping people kind of feel comfortable and be served something that is ideal for them. That creates the whole experience. As it
Working
turns
like
out,
a true event planner.
well, Jenny gets the credit for that, but now I'm doing quite a bit of it. So, but I would say that what's nice about it for us is that both our Chef Amal, and our beverage director, Ben Diamond, they're both, they're at the top of their game. And so the food isn't any less. It's just that our concept is not built around just that personality or just that offering.
Yeah.
It's really the whole package.
So when it comes to working with meeting planners, as if a meeting planner were to come to you and it's like, well, I want to host my event with you, what information or cooperation kinds of things do you need from them in order to offer the best event experience? Like how can they best work with you to make sure that they are getting what they're hoping for?
Sure. Well, aside from the basics of like guest count and budget and like, how they want their, the flow of their event, I think, it's important that they're kind of keyed into their client, because sometimes it's, the event planner is the stakeholder, but who's paying for it, and what do they want? And, a lot of event planners know that, and they're coming in with that information. It's helpful if they might have an idea of sort of dietary preferences. That's one thing.
Right. Yeah.
If I think also like maybe, we all know clients like this, what level of how demanding is the client? How sort of persnickety and discriminating are they? And, like some corporate clients, they want it one way for a certain amount of time and then they change their mind at the end.
Right.
And event planners really have to work with that. I think, we want to know that when we're working with an event planner, that when, we come to sort of an agreement that, it's that we're not having too much back and forth, can we change this? Can we change the menu at the last minute? That kind of stuff. I think we want event planners to trust us to do a good job. And I think sometimes event planners feel like they have to bring all the value, that they're the curator. And often they are in a different kind of environment. If they have to create something out of nothing, they don't have the space, they don't have the catering, they don't have the bar program. They do have to really create something. But I think when you come to us, it's mostly done. And you just have to know the basics. And we try to make it easy. Like I said, I want to have a relationship with the planner. And then I think the only other thing I would mention is that, while we do events like, up to 100 plus, our kitchen is really small, really small. You'd be shocked of what comes out of that kitchen. So, it can't fit more than 4 people.
Oh, wow.
That includes a dishwasher. So
oh my goodness.
It's
Wait,
really.
Hold on. How many people, I'm sorry, how many folks can be in your restaurant at a given time?
Total?
Yeah.
So depending on the event, like a standing reception, we can probably do up to 115. We've done seated up to like 100 and, like 110, I think. But it's tricky, So like we've got some, we can move some furniture around. Sometimes we do rentals. Most of our parties are in like the probably like 50, 60 to 100 count. And then that's for full buyouts. And for partial buyouts, they're in the like 20 to 35 count. That's just our private space upstairs. That's where I'm at right now. But the kitchen,
so
we
four
have
people
like
working in the kitchen?
4 people working in the kitchen, and then we have like a little satellite kitchen that we can get one other person out
Oh my
to do
goodness.
like our salads and dessert. And so we know what we can do and what we can't do.
Okay.
And so, like plated dinners for like 50 or more, we just can't do it. Like we don't have the space to literally
Right.
plate the food. It's not because we don't
Okay.
want to.
Yeah.
We just can't.
Of course.
So, but our buffet dinner is really, it's really strong. So if like clients come in and they're like, I have to have a plated dinner for 100, then like I'm sorry, we can't help you.
Gotcha.
But our food's
Wow.
our food's not gonna taste like buffet food.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we're
naturally.
it's gonna be it's still gonna be the same Michelin quality, but it's that kind of thing. Of we just know our limitations,
Right.
and and so we just want our the planners that we're working with to kind of appreciate that we do have some limitations. As far as like dietary restrictions, we're really good with that. Especially if people are coming in with a list of like gluten-free, dairy-free,
Yeah.
nut allergies, all of that. We really go out of our way to make sure everybody's taken care of. All the
Yeah.
food that comes out in an event, like a private event, is labeled with it contains nuts, or it's vegan, or it's dairy-free, or gluten-free. So those are like in little placards or whatever.
Great. Great.
Nice.
And we'll do custom menus for people. So they're it's branded, it's Bardo branded, but it has
Right.
their company name
That's
and the
really
date of their
nice.
event. And we ask like them for like a personal greeting that they might want.
Oh, nice.
I mean, the other
See,
fun
that's a
thing.
really nice feature.
Thanks. I mean, the other thing that's nice is that people really want to go all out. We have our standard offering, but we'll invite the clients to meet with the chef personally, and they can create their own menu together if they want to. There's an extra fee for that, but our chef has a background. He's born in Texas, but he has an Indian Jewish background from his mother and father. He's worked in Japanese restaurants, worked at Gary Danko in San Francisco. French trained, so he can do a lot, and so he's always excited to do experiment and have work with clients on an individual basis. So that's kind of just a little, you don't necessarily get that for a hotel event.
Definitely.
Totally.
Yeah. Well, Sarah, do you have any other thing to ask, or should we ask our last question?
Well, I was just going to comment on, I just wanted to recognize and kind of celebrate the whole concept of knowing your limitations, because that just really enables you to, and we said a form of this before, a couple minutes ago, but like that really does enable you to go above and beyond and do really, really well what you do. Really helps you to create, offer that novelty of experience that you really can't get anywhere else, because you have like mastered what you do. So yeah,
thank
I
you.
just wanted to acknowledge and appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's helpful, and then at least, then at least like I'd rather just say no, or like hey, I really wish we could work together, but also have a little bit more confidence that I know that we're going to deliver, and that people are going to be happy.
Yeah.
We get a lot of repeat business from guests who are at somebody else's event and then want to do their own event with us.
Very cool. Very nice. Well, that's telling. Awesome. So we always sort of end off with each of our guests by asking them our trademark question. What is in...
It's not bad. It's not bad.
It's not bad. It's just our favorite question to ask. We've worked so
Okay.
hard on it. So what's in your toolbox? And essentially that means, what is something in your experience, your current work, your past work, that you have like a hot tip that you've learned that sort of has propelled you forward or brought about your success that you think listeners might want to put in their own toolboxes?
Okay. Well, this is a little bit built on that theme. I hope it's not a cop-out.
No.
Of what you're talking about limitations. I think it's really important to be very clear about, for me, I would say, is to be very clear about being honest about what you don't know. And what the reason why I think that's so important is, I know a little bit about certain things, and some things more than others. But if I don't know something, I know there's somebody else who does know that, and I think it's important to not. I don't have to be the one to be sort of like the best at everything at the end of the day. And I think, especially working like in groups, event planning, a restaurant certainly. I mean, honestly, when we came in and bought this restaurant, we didn't know anything about the restaurant business, very little. And it was really important for us to identify people who did know, and trust those people and be able to delegate responsibility to them. And so I think that's served me and us well, so that I'm fine to say I don't know, but let me see who I can find who does know. And I think that's a little bit also how we run our business is, I don't try to make all the decisions about, what the service model should be.
Right.
Our servers know, our event managers know, our floor managers know. They know how it should be. They know what the turn time should be. They know what works best for guests in a service model. And so I really let them make those choices as much as possible. I might have my little things, but I think that served me.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Seth. This was a great convo. I hope our listeners really appreciate all that you said. And hopefully for anyone living in the Bay, near a Bay, or Oakland, please check him out. I'm sure it's amazing. And
Truly.
I can't wait to one day visit and try some myself.
I hope so.
Oh my gosh. Me too. I mean, I feel like doing this podcast episode and talking to all of these restaurants is just Eming's in my way of building our to-do list, to eat at list.
Where to eat next in the Bay Area. Well, Sara, I'm hungry.
I am too.
But unfortunately, everything must come to an end.
Yeah. Everything must come to an end so that we can go have lunch.
And the food will not be as good as the food that we talked about today. Unfortunately, I can confidently say I have a sad salad in our collective eating space right now.
Gosh. Yeah, I will say that as we were, going through recording these episodes over the course of a couple of days, I did start going home from work after, like commuting to work, working in the office, commuting back home, and I cooked. I actually cooked. I'm really proud of myself for that because I found it really hard to do so. If you're an in-office worker and a commuter, and
time is precious. It's very precious.
Yeah. But going home and cooking was just so fun. And I just kind of like hearing these people talk about their love for food and serving people and feeding people inspired me. So thank you, Colleen.
Oh, Chef Sara.
Thank you.
Little Chef Sara.
Thank you, Colleen and Mark and Seth.
Podcast and chef.
Oh my gosh.
Watch out. Watch out, Culinary World.
I'm going to go with Home Chef.
You can be on, what's that show?
Oh my gosh, Master Chef. I grew up watching it.
Yes.
I love that show.
I feel like everyone has. That's a whole other podcast episode. Get into
oh my gosh. Yes,
but
definitely.
We hope you guys, we hope this episode provided you some really awesome things to think about or explore if you're thinking about partnering with a restaurant in your area that kind of has this level of like, we got this.
It really it comes back to this one thing that Colleen said that I haven't forgotten. It's like there are few fields in the world that backtracking. So there are like certain things that humans need to survive. That's food, water, shelter, and connection. And there are very, very few industries that provide all of that the moment you walk through their door. Feeding people does. I think events do too. And I think that was really astute and meaningful. So just remember that the work that you do is so important. And these people in the culinary industry, they share your passion.
Yes, don't be hangry.
And on that note,
But on that note, I'm clearly still hungry. On that note, thank you again for joining us on our second episode of the year. I'm sorry, second? Yes.
Yeah, second.
I don't even know what month it is.
Season 2, episode 2.
Season 2, episode 2. Woo!
Yay.
But yes, thank you guys for coming. We have a lot more coming for y'all. And we're really excited what we're about to bring up next. So stay tuned and subscribe and check out smartmeetings.com for any other content that we have. We have plenty. We have
so much
content
content.
coming out of our ears. So much
But
content.
for now, we will see you later. And you belong here.